Imagine a weapon so powerful it makes billion-dollar missile systems look outdated. What if I told you the US Navy developed something that can strike targets at Mach 7? That's over 5,000 miles per hour. A blinding flash, a deafening crack, and a projectile moving faster than any defense system can track. This isn't science fiction. This is the Navy's electromagnetic railgun. But here's what will really shock you. While modern naval missiles cost millions, each railgun projectile costs just $25,000. Think about that for a second. A weapon that's not only unstoppable but also costs 98% less than current systems. Want to know the craziest part? This weapon doesn't even need explosives to destroy its targets. How is that possible? Well, that's where things get interesting. During classified tests at the Naval Surface Warfare Center, this electromagnetic monster showed power that left military experts speechless. What happened next would change naval warfare forever. Stay with me, because I'm about to reveal exactly how this technology works and why it has potential enemies terrified. Ever wonder why the US Navy spent over $500 million trying to reinvent how ships fight? The answer might shock you. You see, there's a critical problem with modern naval warfare that almost nobody talks about, one that could change the entire balance of power at sea. Picture this. A US Navy destroyer sits in hostile waters. Each missile in its arsenal costs more than $2 million. And here's the scary part. It can only carry about 90 of them. During an intense battle, those missiles could be gone in just a few hours. What happens then? The ship becomes essentially defenseless, like a boxer with both hands tied behind their back. But wait, it gets worse. Let me show you something that keeps military planners awake at night. Imagine you're defending against an attack. Your ship fires a $2 million missile to stop an incoming threat. But sometimes, that's not enough. You might need 2 or 3 defensive missiles to guarantee you'll stop just one incoming missile. The math is brutal. You're spending $6 million to stop a threat that might have cost the enemy less than $1 million. Think about that for a second. In a major conflict, an enemy could literally bankrupt your defenses by launching cheap missiles until you run out of expensive ones to shoot them down with. Current anti-ship missiles move at about Mach 2 or 3. That's around 1,500 to 2,300 miles per hour. Pretty fast, right? Well, here's the problem. Modern defense systems are getting better at detecting and stopping these missiles. It's like a high-stakes game of chess where both sides keep making better moves. But there's something even more concerning that the Navy discovered during their war games. These simulations revealed a terrifying possibility that changed everything they thought they knew about naval warfare. Imagine this. Your advanced destroyer, worth billions of dollars, is suddenly faced with 50 incoming missiles, each one capable of causing serious damage. Your defensive systems are excellent, but remember those 90 missiles you have? You might need 2 or 3 to stop each incoming threat. Do the math. It's not pretty. At $2 million per defensive missile, you'd burn through $100 million in just minutes. And that's assuming everything works perfectly. Miss just one incoming missile, and your multi-billion-dollar ship could be crippled or sunk. This scenario isn't just theoretical. Countries like China and Russia are actively developing missile systems designed to overwhelm ship defenses. They're building weapons that can be launched in massive swarms, coming from multiple directions at once. Traditional defense systems simply weren't designed to handle this kind of threat. This is where electromagnetic propulsion enters the picture. But before I tell you how this technology works, you need to understand something crucial about why the Navy invested $500 million in this project. They discovered a weakness in modern naval warfare so fundamental, it challenged everything we thought we knew about ship defense. A weakness that could make even the most advanced warships vulnerable in future conflicts. Want to know what that weakness is? And more importantly, how the Navy plans to fix it? Well, that's where this story takes an unexpected turn. Remember that flash of light we talked about earlier? Let me show you something incredible about how it works. But first, think back to your childhood. Did you ever play with magnets? That simple force that made them stick together or push apart? Well, that's the starting point of the most powerful naval weapon ever created. Here's a fascinating fact. Every time you turn on a light switch, You're using the same basic principle that powers the Navy's railgun. It's called electromagnetic force, but the railgun takes this simple idea and amplifies it to mind-blowing levels. Let me break this down in a way that will shock you. Imagine two parallel metal rails, longer than a school bus. Now, picture electricity flowing up one rail and down the other. When this happens, something amazing occurs. It creates a magnetic field so powerful, it can launch a projectile faster than any explosion could. But here's where things get really interesting. The railgun creates what scientists call a Lorentz force. Sounds complicated, right? But think about it this way. When electricity flows through those rails, it creates an invisible tunnel of pure electromagnetic energy. The projectile gets caught in this tunnel, and what happens next is almost unbelievable. Want to know something that shocked even the engineers who built it? The amount of electromagnetic energy needed to fire the railgun is enough to power 19,000 homes. Just imagine, all that power, focused into a single moment, launching a projectile at speeds over 5,000 miles per hour. But here's the really clever part about how it works. Unlike traditional guns that rely on explosive power, the railgun keeps accelerating its projectile along the entire length of its rails. It's like a master martial artist who doesn't just punch, they follow through with their whole body. The power grows exponentially as the projectile moves. By the time it leaves the barrel, well, what happens next is something you have to see to believe. Would you like me to explain what makes this technology so revolutionary for naval warfare? Because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you think about modern naval combat. Let me share something that left military experts speechless. When the Navy first tested their railgun at full power, they recorded numbers that seemed impossible. But here's the thing. They were real, and they changed everything we thought we knew about naval weapons. Imagine standing on an aircraft carrier's deck. A traditional naval gun fires at about twice the speed of sound. Pretty fast, right? Now, picture a railgun projectile leaving the barrel at Mach 7.5. That's not just breaking the sound barrier, it's shattering it. At over 5,700 miles per hour, it could cross the entire state of California in just minutes. Let's put this speed in perspective. A modern fighter jet, flying at top speed, would look like it's standing still compared to this projectile. Even the world's fastest missiles can't come close to matching this velocity. At these speeds, the air around the projectile actually turns to plasma, the same state of matter found in lightning bolts. The speed isn't even the most impressive part. These projectiles can strike targets more than 100 nautical miles away. Think about that for a second. That's like standing in New York City and hitting a target in Philadelphia with pinpoint accuracy. Traditional naval guns? They can only reach about 13 miles. This is nearly 8 times that distance. This range changes everything about naval warfare. Ships could engage targets from so far away, the enemy wouldn't even know they were there. The curvature of the Earth itself becomes a factor at these distances. The projectile actually travels through the upper atmosphere for part of its journey. Now, here's the most mind-blowing number of all, 32 megajoules. That's the energy packed into each shot. But what does that actually mean? Well, at this energy level, the projectile hits with the force of a car traveling at 160 miles per hour. The difference? This car weighs 2,000 pounds, and it's concentrated into a projectile the size of your arm. The physics behind this impact are staggering. When the projectile hits its target, it delivers more kinetic energy than a stick of dynamite. But unlike an explosive, this energy is focused into a single point, making it devastating against even the toughest armor. During classified tests at Naval Surface Warfare Center Dahlgren, something unprecedented happened. The railgun demonstrated power that exceeded even the most optimistic predictions. The projectiles didn't just penetrate test targets, they went through multiple layers of hardened steel like they were paper. This level of destructive power, combined with its incredible speed and range, makes the railgun a weapon that could completely reshape naval warfare. No existing defense system can track and intercept something moving this fast. By the time a ship's radar detected the incoming projectile, it would already be too late. Back in 2005, something remarkable happened behind the secure walls of the Naval Surface Warfare Center. A group of scientists and engineers gathered to tackle what seemed impossible, creating a weapon that could harness the power of electromagnetic energy. The Navy had just committed $250 million to make this dream a reality. Those first years were filled with endless challenges. The team faced a problem no one had solved before: how to generate enough electromagnetic power to launch projectiles at speeds that seemed to defy physics. Early prototypes could barely achieve Mach 2, and the rails would warp or melt after just a few shots. The breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. Scientists discovered that by changing the composition of the rails and redesigning the power storage system, they could achieve something extraordinary. But the real game changer was still to come. In 2007, the Navy did something unprecedented. They brought in two of America's biggest defense contractors, BAE Systems and General Atomics. These companies, known for pushing the boundaries of military technology, would compete to create the ultimate railgun design. BAE Systems took an innovative approach. Their team developed a revolutionary barrel design that could withstand the massive electromagnetic forces involved. The rails were made from an advanced composite material, so secret that even today, its exact composition remains classified. Meanwhile, General Atomics pursued a different path. They focused on solving the power problem, creating a new type of pulse power system that could deliver massive amounts of electricity in microseconds. Their prototype could store enough energy to power a small town, but release it all in the blink of an eye. By 2012, both companies had working prototypes, but they were drastically different. BAE's design could fire faster, while General Atomics' version hit harder. Each had advantages the other lacked. The Navy faced a critical decision. Which path would they choose? The answer surprised everyone. Instead of picking a winner, the Navy decided to combine the best elements of both designs. They took BAE's advanced barrel technology and paired it with General Atomics' revolutionary power system. What happened next would exceed even their wildest expectations.
In 2015, something incredible happened at the Naval Surface Warfare Center in Virginia. After years of trial and error, engineers achieved what many thought impossible. The combined BAE General Atomics railgun fired a projectile that maintained a stable flight path at Mach 7. This wasn't just a breakthrough, it was a revolution. During these tests, the railgun demonstrated power that left observers stunned. The projectile didn't just hit its target, it went through multiple sheets of hardened steel like they were cardboard. The kinetic energy was so intense that it created a visible flash on impact, brighter than a lightning bolt. The numbers from these tests were staggering. The projectile maintained a stable flight path for over 100 nautical miles, hitting targets with accuracy that seemed to defy physics. But the most impressive part? The cost. Each shot cost about $25,000, less than 1% of the price of modern naval missiles. The key breakthrough came from solving three critical problems. First, engineers developed a new rail coating that could withstand thousands of shots without degrading. Second, they created a power system that could deliver massive electrical pulses with unprecedented efficiency. Third, and most remarkably, they designed a projectile that could survive the electromagnetic forces without breaking apart. In 2017, the Navy conducted its most ambitious test yet. They set up a series of targets at varying distances, some protected by thick armor plating. What happened next changed how military experts thought about naval warfare forever. The railgun fired 6 shots in rapid succession. Each projectile hit its target with pinpoint accuracy. The force of impact was so great that it didn't just penetrate the armor, it created shockwaves that disabled electronic systems nearby. This wasn't just a weapon anymore, it was a complete game changer. But during these tests, engineers noticed something they hadn't anticipated. The electromagnetic field generated by the railgun had an unexpected side effect. It created a phenomenon that military strategists realized could revolutionize not just naval warfare, but the entire concept of ship defense. This discovery led to a classified series of tests in 2018. The results were so significant that they immediately changed the direction of the entire program. The Navy had stumbled upon something that went far beyond their original goals. Let's dive into something that makes the railgun truly revolutionary. To understand its advantages, we need to look at what currently exists in naval warfare. Today's standard naval gun, the Mark 45, can hit targets about 13 nautical miles away. That might sound impressive, until you learn what the railgun can do. At over 100 nautical miles, The Railgun's range is nearly 8 times greater. This isn't just an improvement. It's a complete transformation of naval combat capabilities. Think about what this means in real combat situations. A ship with a railgun could strike targets from so far away that enemy vessels couldn't even see them on the horizon. The Earth's curvature actually provides natural cover for the firing ship. Here's where things get really interesting from a strategic perspective. Modern naval warfare relies heavily on missiles. A single Tomahawk cruise missile costs about $2 million. Anti-ship missiles? They're not much cheaper, running around $1.5 million each. Now, compare that to a railgun projectile, just $25,000. Let's break down these numbers in a way that shows their true impact. For the cost of one Tomahawk missile, a ship could fire 80 railgun projectiles. This changes the entire economics of naval warfare. Suddenly, ships can engage multiple targets without worrying about depleting their million-dollar missile inventory. This cost difference becomes even more significant when you consider modern naval battles. Currently, ships often need to fire multiple missiles to ensure they hit their target. Enemy defenses might shoot down the first 1 or 2 missiles, requiring 3 or 4 launches to guarantee a hit. At $2 million per missile, that's an $8 million engagement. The railgun turns this equation on its head. Not only are the projectiles dramatically cheaper, but their incredible speed makes them nearly impossible to intercept. One shot, one hit, at a fraction of the cost. Consider the larger economic impact on naval operations. A modern destroyer typically carries about 90 missiles. Fully loading it with Tomahawk missiles costs roughly $180 million. The same ship could carry hundreds of railgun projectiles for just a few $1,000,000. This doesn't just change combat capabilities. It transforms how navies can budget and deploy their forces. Think about the strategic flexibility this provides. Ships could carry significantly more ammunition, stay on station longer, and engage more targets without the constant worry of depleting their expensive missile inventory. This isn't just about saving money, it's about fundamentally changing what's possible in naval warfare. Modern warships carry a dangerous cocktail of explosive materials. Their missile magazines are packed with volatile rocket fuel and warheads. One lucky hit could turn these weapons storage areas into a catastrophic chain reaction. The railgun changes this entire equation. A railgun projectile carries no explosives at all. Instead, it relies purely on kinetic energy, the raw power of speed and mass. At Mach 7.5, the projectile hits with such tremendous force that it doesn't need explosive power. The impact alone delivers more destructive energy than conventional explosives. This creates an incredibly safe weapons system. Ships can store hundreds of inert projectiles without the risk of accidental detonation. No more dangerous explosive materials to handle. No more complex safety protocols for ammunition storage. Just simple, solid projectiles waiting to be launched at incredible speeds. Modern naval defense systems face an impossible challenge when dealing with railgun projectiles. These defense systems were designed to track and intercept threats moving at Mach 2 or 3. But a railgun projectile moves at Mach 7.5, more than twice as fast as the fastest anti-ship missiles. The numbers tell a startling story. From the moment a railgun projectile is detected, a defense system has less than 5 seconds to react, track, calculate an intercept course, and launch a countermeasure. By the time the defensive computer finishes its calculations, the projectile has already struck its target. Current ship armor and defensive systems rely on detecting incoming threats and either intercepting them or minimizing explosive damage. They simply weren't designed to stop a solid projectile moving at hypersonic speeds. The railgun effectively bypasses decades of defensive technology development. However, in 2021, during advanced testing phases, engineers discovered a crucial limitation. The same incredible speeds that make the railgun nearly unstoppable also create an unexpected challenge. The projectile moves so fast that it creates a superheated plasma field around itself. This plasma interferes with traditional guidance systems, making long-range targeting more complex than anyone anticipated. Every revolutionary technology faces challenges, but the railgun's hurdles proved more complex than anyone imagined. The first major obstacle emerged during extended testing in 2019. After just a few shots,
The weapon's rails began showing severe damage. The electromagnetic forces were literally tearing the barrel apart from the inside. Imagine trying to harness the power of a small power plant, but releasing it all in a fraction of a second. That's exactly what the railgun requires. Each shot needs 25 megawatts of power, enough electricity to power 18,750 homes. Current naval vessels simply weren't designed to generate this kind of energy on demand. The Navy's most advanced destroyers, the Zumwalt class, can generate about 78 megawatts of total power. But here's the problem. The ship needs most of that power just to operate its essential systems. Finding a way to divert enough energy for multiple railgun shots while keeping the ship's critical systems running became a major engineering challenge. During intense testing phases, engineers discovered something alarming. The electromagnetic forces inside the railgun weren't just damaging the rails, they were creating microscopic cracks in the ship's structural elements. The weapon was so powerful it was literally trying to tear itself apart. The numbers were staggering. Each shot subjected the rails to forces exceeding 10,000 Gs. That's 10,000 times the force of gravity. Even the most advanced materials started showing signs of stress after just a few dozen shots. Early prototypes needed barrel replacement after as few as 20 shots. Another critical challenge emerged from the intense heat generated during firing. Temperatures inside the barrel reached over 1,000 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt steel. The cooling systems required to manage this heat added another layer of complexity to the power management problem. Engineers tried various solutions. They developed new composite materials, experimented with different rail configurations, and even attempted to use magnetic fields to reduce wear. But each solution seemed to create new problems. Stronger materials were too brittle. Better cooling systems required more power. More durable rails reduced efficiency. Perhaps the most daunting challenge came from the need for massive capacitor banks. These energy storage systems, necessary for providing the intense burst of power needed for each shot, took up significant space. The prototype systems were the size of a school bus, far too large for practical deployment on most naval vessels. By 2020, an alarming pattern emerged in railgun testing. The rails, despite being made from advanced materials, were degrading faster than anyone anticipated. Picture taking a brand new car and having its engine wear out after just 20 miles. That's essentially what was happening with the railgun's rails. The problem went deeper than simple wear and tear. The electromagnetic forces were so intense that they were actually ripping atoms away from the rail surface. With each shot, microscopic pieces of metal would tear away, changing the barrel's shape ever so slightly. By the 40th shot, accuracy began to suffer dramatically. Engineers tried everything. They coated the rails with diamonds, experimented with exotic metal alloys, and even attempted to create self-repairing surfaces. Nothing seemed to solve the core problem. The sheer violence of launching projectiles at hypersonic speeds was more than any known material could handle repeatedly. Then came an even more complex challenge: hitting targets at extreme ranges. The railgun projectile travels through multiple layers of the atmosphere, each affecting its trajectory differently. At Mach 7.5, even tiny variations in air density can throw the projectile miles off course. Imagine trying to throw a baseball from New York to Philadelphia and hitting a specific window. Now imagine doing that while the ball is traveling so fast it turns the air around it into plasma. That's the level of precision the targeting system needed to achieve. These weren't just engineering puzzles to solve. They had real implications for naval warfare. A weapon that needs its barrel replaced after every few dozen shots isn't practical in combat situations. A targeting system that can't reliably hit its mark makes even the most powerful weapon useless. The maintenance requirements posed another serious problem. Each rail replacement required specialized equipment and highly trained technicians. In the middle of a conflict, a ship might have to return to port just to replace worn-out rails, leaving its assigned patrol area vulnerable. By late 2021, these challenges forced military planners to face a difficult reality. The railgun's incredible power came with equally incredible maintenance and operational costs. Every solution to these problems seemed to create new ones, in an endless cycle of engineering challenges. In 2021, after investing over $500 million and 15 years of intensive research, the U.S. Navy made a profound decision about the Railgun program. The groundbreaking weapon system, despite its incredible potential, would not be deployed on naval vessels. This wasn't just a temporary pause. It marked the end of this chapter in naval weapon development. The Navy's decision stemmed from a brutal assessment of practical realities. Despite achieving remarkable breakthroughs in electromagnetic propulsion, the fundamental challenges of power generation and rail degradation proved too difficult to overcome with current technology. Ships simply couldn't generate enough power to make the weapon practical, and the maintenance requirements were too demanding for real-world deployment. The Railgun program, however, wasn't a failure. Far from it. It pushed the boundaries of electromagnetic science, materials engineering, and power systems in ways that continue to influence military technology. Engineers